we usually have 10 employees here that work here in the shop building cars and building parts and pieces and engines and all for our number 15 car for a 30 race schedule, besides all the engines and stuff that we build and ship all over the world to other people. We started the 351 Cleveland engine in racing in 1972, and we've been working with it ever since, and there's been a lot of races won with this engine, and we pioneered this engine.
All right, the Petty brothers, Timmy Petty, Mark Petty, Richie Petty, back down here in the Chiefs pit. And most people today think of NASCAR racing, you think of Mooresville or Charlotte area as being the hub of racing. And what did you say it was Mooresville's nickname is?
They call it Race City, USA, right?
I think you're right.
But that's where most of the race shops are.
Most of the teams have ended up in that area.
They some of them migrated up from the Charlotte area. Remember, you had, I guess Savco was down there in Charlotte.
Well, one of the first ones I can remember being right there at the racetrack was Darrell Waltrip's shop. Remember that his little Bush team deal. And then you had the Stravolas over in Harrisburg.
Well, Alan Kowicki built that shop.
Well, Alan Kowicki started out over at Norman's, renting a shop from Norman.
Still, around the Speedway, there was a lot of shops at one time.
In Kannapolis there.
Then they moved to Mooresville.
Well, yeah, but it's that whole little area.
But before that, go ahead.
All right, before that, though, Randolph County was a kind of a race hub. And what you got to remember, I think, what made these places hubs was the highways. It was easy to access from Daytona to Atlanta and all this. Everything was accessible.
Definitely a factor.
So Randolph County was a big factor as far as a race hub. We had Petty's, and you had Cliff Stewart. You had Hagen's right up the road.
And eventually Bill Davis, like you said.
And then when Roush moved in here from Michigan, his first shop was in Liberty here in Randolph County. And you had a lot of Bush teams.
Liberty wasn't very convenient to get to, was it?
Well, you had the Highway 421.
Okay.
That took you right to it.
Well, yeah, but I think more or less of it being convenient to the highways, that's where the racers were from.
Right.
I mean, that's where they lived. That's where their shop was, and yeah.
But now Mooresville is the hub because 77, 85 all connect right in there, so it's easy to hit the road, go anywhere in the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got I-40, I-70.
But Randolph County, we had Samard. You had the Thomas Brothers Country Ham 00 car.
Yeah.
You had, what'd you say, Steve Grissom's there?
Yeah, later on was Grissom and LePage were right down the road there.
What was the LePage's sponsor?
The Vermont Teddy Bear.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Yep. And Grissom was the channel lot.
That's that, yeah.
Well,
and Big Mama.
Before
them. Bobby Labonte.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot about the Labontes.
The Bobby Labonte Bush.
Well, the Labontes still got a shop over there.
Well, yeah, that's right. The Labontes.
Right off 85, by the way.
Yep.
We could go on and on with these people, couldn't we? Because that's just, you can't
start thinking. Sure people's going to remember more than we did.
Oh, yeah. And we're not trying to disclude or whatever.
Well, that Bill Blair back when Lee Boy, he was down here in High Point. Remember?
That's right.
And then you had the Julie's shop with Bob Welborn and all them. They was in this area. So
yeah.
Anyway, there's a lot of shops. And anyway, where we're going with this is there was a hub of NASCAR before Charlotte, before Randolph County. It was Spartanburg, South Carolina, wasn't it?
As big as what we're talking about now, yes. So you had Bud Moore Engineering, Cotton Owens Racing Enterprise, Jack Smith, which is how we're going to lead into this with Pop. He went and worked with Jack Smith for a while, but when he first come here, like you said, when he first left here, he had his own shop through Ford Motor Company.
Well, we spent a lot of time in Spartanburg because that's where Pop and Nana were from.
Right, so as kids.
So we grew up down there. So we have a little connection to Spartanburg. But Pop Red, he came from Iowa, and his first job in NASCAR racing was
here
with
in
Petty
Randolph
Engineering
County.
with grandfather. And then he left and started his own satellite shop for Holman Moody, right?
Yep.
And Cale Yarborough's first Cup win came out of them shops in Random, and a little trivia fact for you.
And they got involved with the Trans Am or whatever series that was.
But then he moved. But when Pop Red left here and went to his shop, it was a Holman Moody satellite, and then he got hooked up with Jack Smith on them Pontiacs down there in South Carolina.
Spartanburg.
So that's what put him into Spartanburg.
Right, and so that was early '60s.
Yeah.
And then he went from Jack Smith to Bud Moore's, and he stayed there through retirement.
I think so. Yeah. I think he got in with Bud to do that Trans Am series he's talking about with that what's that car you got back? Who drove that? You don't remember?
It don't matter.
Yeah,
we'll think of it in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
But what I was going to say about Spartanburg.
Hardelli Jones, he was in on that deal. Yeah, one of them.
But anyway, Spartanburg, not only that, in the late 60s, early 70s, you had Mario Rossi. James Hilton was right out there outside of it. And the reason is
he was in Inman, South Carolina.
Right. And then you had, even later than that, Pearson had his own racing with Ricky and Eddie and what was it?
Oh,
Larry?
yeah.
Yep.
And Buckshot Jones built a shop right there off of 85.
But Pearson, he was with Cotton Owens in that number 6 Dodge.
Right.
And he won a championship a couple of years with him.
And then later on, Marty Robbins, which is a great country singer in my opinion, drove that deal,
yeah.
42 car. But later on after that, you had, I guess it was the same buildings, the Phoenix Racing, which James Finch.
Yeah.
But you also had...
That was Buckshot's old building, right? Or no?
I think.
Yeah.
I ain't sure.
I'm not sure. But then later on, even later than that, which Johnny Davis, he started over in Gaffney, which is not far from James Hilton's place. And a lot of people that we've worked with used to work with Hilton
Now,
through that
growing
enterprise.
up, and I didn't realize at the time, but it was really a treat for us, and I didn't realize it. But we got to visit Cotton's shop,
Yes.
and we got to go over to Jack Smith's shop, and we got to go see Bud Moore's shop. And we didn't think nothing about it because we grew up in race shops.
On the dynamometer, we check the carburation, the fuel mixture, and we know just exactly how the fuel mixture and the burn is on the engine, the power and everything before we put it in the car.
Well, it's pulling awful good on the bottom end. We'll have to check the torque all the way out, but give me a reading on the fuel.
We know that the engine's in good shape. It pulls good horsepower and all before we leave here to the races.
Looking back on it now, was that not a special treat?
Oh, yeah. And we hung out with their families.
Yeah.
And our mother loved Cotton's wife.
Well, Cotton and Dot would send Mom and Dad a Christmas card up until the end.
What did Daddy always call Cotton? Everett.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. That was Cotton's real name, I guess.
Huh.
But no, I mean, there's a lot of ties with that Spartanburg connection through Pop and Daddy's connection with Cotton.
Now, as time went on, and a lot of them shops left and all that, but Bud Moore, David Pearson, and Cotton Owens, and there was somebody else, but they would all gather and go eat down there at that
Peach Blossom.
Peach Blossom for lunch every day.
Which is probably a national treasure, that restaurant down there.
Right,
You know, we've talked about the Beacon before, and that's one of the ones we've
But those guys remained friends up until they all died off, I guess.
Well, and David Pearson used to tell a story about Cotton firing him. They was late to get to the racetrack. He left them. But then, like you said, for years, they sat right there every day at lunch and had lunch together.
I think they got pictures of them on the walls at this Peach Blossom right there off Old 85, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I'd love to go down there right now.
That would be good. Yeah.
So what's next on this episode?
Well, Pop, he retired from Budmore, as you said. He stayed there till and then he moved back up here to Greensboro. So that's when we lost our Spartanburg connection, I guess.
So I guess really, out of all these, the only one still in existence would probably be Johnny Davis, which is on the outskirts. But what we're trying to say is Spartanburg was a big hub, and they were going to build a super speedway before they built Talladega. That was, and somehow or another the local politicians shut her down. But that would have been cool to have a Daytona-sized racetrack right there in Spartanburg.
You know, speaking of Pop, and he was involved with a lot of good drivers and all that, but I believe he was probably one of the few people that worked for Ralph Earnhardt and worked on a car for Ralph Earnhardt through Lee Petty Engineering, and he worked with Dale Earnhardt with Budmore Engineering.
Yeah, that's right. He
was the gas man on that deal. So that's just
What
a
year
little
was that? 84?
82.
82.
82.
Okay. Yeah.
And speaking of 82, here's a little coffee cup. We're going to have a little giveaway. What do y'all think?
It's got the 42 and the 43.
Okay. You got the Kyle Petty car. You got the Richard Petty car. And this is Petty Enterprises 1982.
Another sweepstakes.
So what we're going to have, you like and subscribe and give us a comment. We'll go off the comments, and we'll do a random number generator, and we'll pick us a winner. So
Good luck.
yeah, jump in there and give us some good comments.
I want to say one more thing. My glasses ain't sliding off near as bad, Stankiewicz.
Is he getting on to you about that?
Yeah, he said I adjust them too much, but I think I got them fixed now.
Now, is there any teams still in Spartanburg now?
He said Johnny Davis.
I can't think of none of these. I mean, obviously Bud Moore's out of business.
All the guys we
Cotton
know are
on.
dead and gone.
And there may be somebody in the old Buckshot.
Does the Pearsons
The
still?
building.
They still have their
shop?
building, but I don't think they do no racing out there that I know of. I mean, Eddie might could write in and tell us, but
He ain't watching our show.
well, Eddie, if you're out there,
Well,
fly.
If anybody knows any shops in Spartanburg that are still active, let us know on the comments. Like and subscribe, and keep tuning in. Thank you.